I poisoned my brother's wine that night. Not with arsenic or some dramatic toxin from a spy novel, but with the slow-drip truth I'd bottled up for a decade, watching his empire choke on every swallow. He smiled at me across the table, clinking his glass like we were old pals, oblivious that the family fortune he'd stolen wasn't just money, it was my life, my freedom, the years I rotted in a cell for a screw-up. And as the first drop hit his tongue, I whispered, to family, knowing this dinner would be his last untainted meal. The one where I finally carved out the revenge that tasted sweeter than any apology he never gave. The fluorescent hum of the diner kitchen was my lullaby, the sizzle of grease my alarm clock. I'd been slinging hash browns at Joe's all night since I was 19, double shifts bleeding into the gig at the laundromat down on Elm Street, where the dryers coughed up quarters like reluctant confessions. It wasn't glamorous, hell. It wasn't even sustainable, but it kept the lights on in my one-bedroom walk-up in this godforsaken corner of Detroit, where the Rust Belt still clung to the skyline like a bad memory. Mom and Dad, they were ghosts in a McMansion 2 hours north, in the leafy suburbs of Bloomfield Hills, sipping Chardonnay and pretending their daughter didn't exist. Or, at least, that's what it felt like after the trial. My name's Sophia Reyes, and if you looked up screw job in the dictionary, you'd find my mugshot smiling back at you. 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and suddenly I was the fall guy for a felony that wasn't even mine.
Grand Theft Auto?
They called it, boosting a fleet of luxury rides from the dealership where my brother, Alex, worked as the Golden Boy salesman. But Alex? He was the one with the keys, the connections, the balls to hotwire a Bentley and flip it for cash to feed his coke habit. I was just the little sister who covered for him one too many times, forging a signature here, running interference there. That last time, though, he swore it was foolproof. Soph, you're my blood, he'd said, eyes glassy under the street lamp. We do this, and we're set. College for you. A fresh start. Fresh start. Yeah.
Right.
The cops kicked in our door at dawn, badges flashing like Judgment Day. Alex bolted out the fire escape, vanishing into the ether, while I stood there in my ratty pajamas, stammering alibis that crumbled like stale bread. The evidence? My fingerprints on the getaway van because I'd driven it once. Twice. A dozen times to help him scout drop points. The forged docs? In my handwriting. Because who else would he trust with the dirty work? By the time the plea deal hit the table, 5 years in Wayne County lockup, probation after, I was too broken to fight. Mom cried. Dad stared at the floor. And Alex? He sent postcards from California. All sunshine and reinvention. Like he'd never left me holding the bag. Prison wasn't the movies. No shank fights in the yard or brooding monologues under the moon. It was the monotony that killed you, the endless beige walls. The chow that tasted like regret. The way time stretched like taffy until you forgot what day it was. I read every book in the library twice. Learned basic coding from a lifer who'd hacked banks in the 90s. Even started a little book club for the girls who missed their kids. But every night, staring at the bunk above me, I'd replay that night, Alex's laugh as we sped away with the first score. The way he'd promised to pay me back tenfold. You're the smart one, Soph. This is just the launch pad. Out on parole at 23. I hit the ground running or stumbling.
Depending on the day. No fanfare.
No welcome home cake. Mom wired me $500 with a note. Get on your feet. Don't call until you're stable. Dad, radio silence. Alex. Though, he was thriving. I'd stalk his LinkedIn from the public library computer, heart pounding as his profile bloomed. Junior VP at a luxury auto group in LA. Then his own dealership startup. Reyes Rides, all sleek Teslas and Lumbos for the Hollywood elite. Photos of him at galas, arm around some blonde influencer, grinning like the cat that ate the canary. And the kicker? Our family money. The inheritance from Abuela, Grandma Rosa's nest egg from decades slinging empanadas at Eastern Market, funneled straight to him. He's the future, Dad had said during one of our rare phone calls. You've got to understand, Sophia. Blood's thicker than grudges. Thicker than the bars that caged me. Apparently. I pieced together the betrayal in fragments, like a mosaic of spite. A cousin let slip that Alex had flown home right after my sentencing. Spun some sob story about my wild phase dragging him down. Convinced Mom and Dad to liquidate Grandma's savings for his therapy and relocation.
Therapy.
For the brother who'd ghosted his own sister. By 25, I was grinding those two jobs. Saving pennies for community college classes, in the evenings graphic design. Because dreams die hard. But the rage? It simmered low. A pilot light under a pressure cooker. Flaring up whenever I'd see one of his ads on TV. Reyes Rides, where trust meets torque. It was the email that lit the fuse. 6 months ago. Out of the blue. Family dinner. Bloomfield Hills. July 15th. Be there. Dad. No, please. No, why now? Just coordinates to the house I'd grown up in. The one with the wraparound porch and the rosebushes Mom still tended like fragile apologies. I almost deleted it. Almost told myself it was a trap. Another round of pity porn where they'd pat my head and send me back to the grind. But curiosity's a bitch. And so was the hook. Alex would be there. His latest post had him back east. Reconnecting with roots. Roots. As if he hadn't yanked mine out years ago. I bought a dress from the thrift store. Black. Simple. The kind that says I'm fine, without screaming it. Drove the old Civic I'd rebuilt from scrap. Windows down to let the humid Michigan air slap some sense into me. The suburbs hit like a time warp. Manicured lawns. SUVs in every driveway. The faint whiff of barbecue that masked the rot underneath. Pulling into the drive. Heart hammering like a faulty carburetor. I saw them through the bay window. Mom fussing over the table. Dad nursing a scotch. And Alex, tall, tanned, tailored suit hugging his frame like it was sewn from dollar bills, holding court with that easy grin. Sophia. Mom rushed out, arms open, but her hug landed like wet cardboard. You look
Good.
tired, but good. Dad grunted a hello from the threshold, eyes flicking to my car like it was a stain on the upholstery. And Alex? He sauntered over, clapping my shoulder a beat too hard. Cease. Long time. You still flipping burgers, or what? The words landed like a gut punch, but I swallowed it, forcing a smile. Something like that. Nice ride. I nodded at his Porsche, gleaming like a predator in the dusk. Inside, the dining room was a shrine to normalcy, crystal chandelier casting prisms on the linen. Centerpieces of lilies that smelled too sweet, too contrived. We settled in roast beef, mashed potatoes, the whole Midwest spread, and the small talk flowed like bad wine. Alex regaled them with tales of LA. Closings, the celeb clients who'd changed his life. Mom cooed. Dad chuckled. And I picked at my food, the fork scraping china like nails on a chalkboard. It was midway through the salad course that the first crack appeared. Dad cleared his throat, the sound like gravel under tires. Sophia, we've been talking about the past. My fork froze,
Past.
as if it were a dusty album, not a felony record that haunted every job app. Mom jumped in, her voice pitched high. We know things were unfair. Alex has offered to help. A loan, maybe? For school, Alex nodded. All magnanimous savior. Yeah. Soph. I owe you. Big time. Owe me. The word hung there, laced with the unspoken. The 5 years. The 2 jobs. The nights I'd cried myself raw wondering why blood meant so little. I set down my fork, the clink echoing like a gavel. Alone, I echoed, tasting the bile. From the money that was supposed to be mine? Grandma's money. The table went still. Mom's eyes widened, Dad shifted, and Alex's smile faltered, just a twitch. But I caught it. The hook was set. But that was just the appetizer. The real feast, the one where I served up the poison, was still to come. Dessert was tiramisu, Mom's attempt at Italian flair, dusted with cocoa like fresh snow on a lie. We ate in that loaded silence, the kind where everyone's chewing louder than necessary, forks scraping like accusations. Alex recovered first, of course. He always did. Come on, Soph. Water under the bridge. Look at you out. Free. Kicking ass. That's more than most get.
Free.
The word twisted in my gut like a knife. Free to what? Scrape by on $11 an hour. Dodging bill collectors who smelled parole like sharks on blood? I wanted to hurl the plate at him. Watch the cream splatter his pressed shirt like the mess he'd made of my life. But revenge isn't a sprint. It's a marathon with tripwires. And I'd waited too long to blow it on impulse. Instead, I leaned back, crossing my arms, letting the room's AC chill my skin. Kicking ass.
Huh?
Tell that to the dean who laughed me out of enrollment because of my record. Or the landlord who jacked my rent, 'cause ex-cons are risky. But sure, Alex, easy for you to say. You were busy building an empire on stolen wheels. The air thickened, Mom's hand fluttering to her pearls like they could ward off the ugly. Dad coughed into his napkin. Sophia, that's not what? Dad? Fair? Ancient history? I cut him off. Voice steady, but edged, like a blade wrapped in silk. Alex's eyes narrowed, just a fraction, enough to remind me of the boy who'd once shared comic books under the covers, plotting world domination with capes and candy bars. That boy was gone, replaced by this polished shark. But the flicker? It was there. Calculation. Whoa. Easy, he said, palms up in mock surrender. I get it. I do. That's why I'm here, making it right. Check this out. He slid a check across the table, crisp and blue, 5 figures glaring up at me like a bribe.
No strings. Consider it interest on.
Everything. I stared at it, the numbers blurring. 25,000. Enough for tuition, a deposit on something better than my shoebox apartment, maybe even a buffer against the what-ifs. Part of me, the tired, bone-weary part that collapsed at 3 a.m. after closing shift, wanted to snatch it, fold it into my purse, and drive away without looking back. But the other part, the one forged in visitation rooms and solitary stretches, saw it for what it was, hush money. A Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Interest, I repeated,
pushing it back.
On Grandma's money? The one you convinced them to invest in your getaway? Mom gasped, a small, wounded sound. Sophia, that's not how it happened. But her eyes darted to Alex, pleading. And I knew. I'd pieced it together months ago, cross-referencing old emails I'd hacked from Dad's unsecured account. Yeah. Prison teaches you tricks. Alex's flight to LA. The day after my arrest. The wire transfer from Mom's joint savings, $150,000. Earmarked son's future. Grandma Rose's future. Meant for all of us grandkids. Siphoned to bail out the prodigal son while I paid the piper. It was a loan to him, Mom whispered now. As if volume could rewrite facts. He paid it back. With interest. Alex jumped in. Smooth as ever.
See?
All square. Let's toast to new beginnings. He raised his glass, but I didn't move. The room felt smaller, the lilies wilting under the weight. Dad finally spoke, voice rough from disuse. Your brother's done well. Sophia. Turned it around. We need that in this family. Turned it around. As if success erased the skid marks. I thought of the letters I'd written from inside, begging for visits, for belief, and the silence that answered. Turned it around, while I turned tricks with a mop bucket. That's when the flip happened, the first real one of the night. Alex's phone buzzed, screen lighting his face like a halo from hell. He glanced at it, smirk fading into something sharper, then excused himself to the study. I waited 2 beats, then followed, silent as a shadow on the carpet runner. The door was ajar, his voice low and urgent. Yeah, it's handled. The books are clean offshore,
Like you said.
just tie up the loose end with the auditor. He's sniffing too close. A pause. Then laughter. Dark and familiar. Nah. The sister's no threat. Bought her off with pocket change. Family's the best cover. Right? Loose end. Auditor. The pieces slammed together like a car crash in slow motion. Reyes Rides wasn't just a comeback story, it was a front. Embezzlement. Maybe money laundering through the high-end flips, luxury cars as Trojan horses for dirty cash.
And me?
I'd been the perfect scapegoat once. Why not again? Heart pounding. I slipped back to the table, the check burning a hole in my napkin. When he returned, all charm restored, I met his eyes. Everything good? Peachy, he said, clinking my water glass. But I saw it, the wariness, the way his fingers tightened on the stem. The poison was in the air now, seeping from my silence. Dessert plates cleared. Coffee poured black as midnight. And Mom steered us to safer waters. Recipes. Weather. The neighbor's new pool. But under the table, my foot tapped a rhythm of reckoning. I'd spent years rebuilding from ashes he scattered. Now it was his turn to choke on the smoke. Later, as we lingered over Port's, Dad's ritual, a '98 Taylor Fladgate that probably cost more than my monthly take, I steered the conversation like a wheel in slick rain. Alex, remember that summer in the Up? When we camped by Lake Superior? Swore we'd stick together no matter what. His nod was automatic. Nostalgic. Yeah. Soft. Good times. I leaned in, voice honeyed. That's why I covered for you back then. The joyrides. The petty stuff. Thought it was us against the world. Mom froze mid-sip. Dad's glass hovered. Alex's smile held, but his eyes were glass. Covered? Come on. We were kids. Kids don't do 5 years federal. The words dropped like stones in still water. Mom's cup rattled in its saucer. Sophia. Not tonight. But I was rolling. The dam cracking. He didn't just run.
Mom.
He sold me out. Planted the extra evidence. Whispered to his boss at the dealership that I was the ringleader. Got a promotion out of it. Didn't you, bro? While I learned to braid hair in Gen Pop. Lies? Half-truths? The line blurred in the heat. I'd suspected the plant, the mismatched VIN on the van logs, but proof was vapor. Alex's face drained of color, then flushed red. That's bullshit. Soft. You were in deep as me. I tried to get you a lawyer. With what? Your trust fund. I shot back. The room spinning into chaos. Dad slammed his palm down. Silverware jumping. Enough. This family's had enough scandals. But the seed was planted. Doubt worming in. Alex flipped again, charmed to fury in a blink. You want truth? Fine. I did what I had to. You were always the weak link. Sophia. Too soft. Too loyal. I built something real out here. You're still scraping grease off plates. The slap echoed before I felt the sting in my palm. His cheek bloomed pink. The table gasping in unison. Mom wailed. Dad surged to his feet. But I stood my ground. Breath ragged. Weak, I survived you. That's strength. The night fractured there. Shards of what-if scattering. But as Alex stormed out, tires squealing on the drive, I pocketed the check, not for the money, but as a receipt. The revenge wasn't in the strike, it was in the slow unravel. The fallout hit like a Michigan winter, swift, brutal, burying everything under drifts of denial. Mom called the next morning, voice quivering over speaker as I clocked in at the diner. Sophia, what was that? You can't just accuse him like that.
Accuse.
As if truth were a weapon, not a right. I wiped down the counter, the bleach sting mirroring the one in my eyes. It's not an accusation if it's fact.
Mom.
Ask him about the van logs. Or the money trail. Silence. Then a sigh like wind through pines. He's your brother. Family forgives. Forgives. The words soured on my tongue. I'd forgiven the postcards that never came. The birthdays skipped. But this? The empire built on my bones?
No.
Dad's line went to voicemail 3 times before he picked up. Gruff as ever. You crossed a line last night. Alex is hurting. Hurting. I barked a laugh, startling a trucker at the end of the counter. Tell me that from inside.
Dad.
When you chose him over me.
Click. Dead air.
It stung. But not fresh, the wound was scar tissue now. Tough and numb. Work blurred the edges. Orders shouted over the grill. Quarters jingling in the laundromat till. But at night, in the dark of my apartment, the plan coalesced. Revenge wasn't a slap, it was surgery.
Precise and deep.
I'd start with the check, deposit it, trace the account, follow the digital breadcrumbs back to his LA
lair.
2 weeks later, I was on a Greyhound West. The check cashed into a burner account I'd set up with prison hone savvy. Detroit faded in the rear view, giving way to cornfields, then mountains that clawed at the sky.
Ella.
Hit like a fever dream. Palm trees arching over freeways choked with Teslas. Air thick with ambition and exhaust. I crashed at a hostel in Echo Park. The kind with bunk beds and backpackers trading startup pitches like baseball cards.
By day.
I played tourist, scoping Rhea's rides from across the boulevard. The showroom a glass palace of chrome and excess. Alex held court inside. All white teeth and power poses. Closing deals with starlets who probably deducted the down payment on taxes. Nights were recon coffee shops with free Wi-Fi. Nursing lattes while I deep-dived public records.
Linkaging connections.
Even a shady forum for auto industry whistleblowers. The auditor he'd mentioned on that call? A mid-level bean counter at a firm called Pinnacle Forensic, named Harlan Voss, 50s, balding, with a Glassdoor profile screaming, disgruntled. Turned out, he'd been fired last month, restructuring my ass. A cold email from a dummy address. Heard you're shopping a story. Ex-con sister-in-law to the mark. Details. And boom. Voss bit. We met in a dive bar off Sunset. Him nursing a whiskey sour. Me a Coke. Trading files like contraband. It's textbook, Voss said, sliding over a thumb drive thick with spreadsheets. Reyes funnels cash through salvaged wrecks, totaled on paper. Rebuilt offshore. Sold clean here. Embezzled from investor funds. Laundered via the flips. Your bro's skimming 10% on every deal. My pulse thrummed. The pieces locking, grandma's money as seed capital. My silence as the perfect blind. And the loose end? I pressed. Voice low. Voss's eyes darted.
Me.
I flagged the discrepancies. He buried them with threats. Photos of my wife at the casino. Implication clear.
But now?
I'm out. And I've got backups. We parted with a nod. No names exchanged. Back at the hostel, I pored over the files till dawn. The glow of my laptop, the only light in the bunk. It wasn't just greed, it was a house of cards, teetering on fabricated audits and shell companies. Alex's flips weren't luck. They were larceny. Scaled up from our teenage joyrides. The rage boiled fresh. But I channeled it. Anonymous tips to the IRS tip line. Seated with Voss's docs minus the fingerprints. A burner phone call to a reporter at the LA Times, source close to the family, says Reyes rides is a front. Check the vents. Controversy was the accelerant. Let it burn slow. But Alex smelled smoke. A week in, my real phone buzzed, unknown number.
Ella.
Area code. Soph, it's me. What the hell are you doing out here? I froze. The laundromat's dryers thumping like my heart.
How?
The check. Probably, traced like a bad bet.
Vacation, elite.
Folding towels with mechanical calm. Heard the beaches are nice. Laughter.
Edged.
Cut the crap. Voss reached out, some bullshit about old scores. You put him up to it. Flip number 2, from oblivious to omniscient. Charm curdling to coercion. Stay out of it. Soph. For your sake. Dad's health. Heart stuff. Stress could kill him. Guilt twisted. Sharp as barbed wire. Dad's episodes. The ones Mom downplayed. But I shoved it down. Like you stayed out of mine? Silence. Then a sigh. Almost genuine. I fucked up. Okay?
Back then.
But this? It's bigger than us. Walk away. And I'll wire real money. Enough to start over. East Coast. Whatever. The offer dangled. Tempting as forbidden fruit. Walk away. Pretend the betrayal was a bad dream. Collect my 30 pieces and fade. But the girl who'd done 5 years didn't bend anymore. Send the wire, I said. And I'll think about it. He did 50 grand, hitting my account by noon. Enough to vanish.
Or
Leverage. I used it to hire a PI. A grizzled ex-cop named Ruiz who worked out of a strip mall office smelling of stale cigars. You want dirt on your brother? Got it in spades. 2 days later, dossiers thumped on the hostel's communal table, photos of Alex with shadier types, tattooed enforcers outside strip clubs. Briefcases exchanged in parking garages.
wiretaps, questionable.
But effective, catching him barking orders. Double the skim this quarter. Feds are blind. And the crown jewel, a recorded call to mom. Just last month. Tell dad it's handled. Sophia's grudge? Ancient. She won't talk. Betrayal layered on betrayal. Like varnish on rot. Ruiz leaned back. Toothpick rolling. Kid. This goes south. You're collateral.
Testify.
And it's witness protection or worse. I nodded, pocketing the drive. South? I'd steer the store myself. Back east on the bus. Files burning a hole in my bag. I plotted the climax. Not courtrooms or cops. But the one place truth cuts deepest, family. Thanksgiving. 3 months out. I'd call the dinner. Host at neutral ground, a rented cabin in the Porcupine Mountains. Far from suburbs and spotlights.
Reconciliation. I de pits.
One last shot. They'd come, curiosity.
Guilt.
The pull of blood. And there, over turkey and lies, I'd serve the feast. The weeks crawled. Tension coiling like a spring. Alex texted olive branches, memes. Inside jokes from kid days, testing waters. I played along. Cryptic replies keeping him off balance. Mom sent care packages. Tamales frozen stiff. Notes pleading peace. Dad? A single call. Don't ruin us. Sophia.
Ruin.
As if I hadn't been the ruin all along. Parole check-ins dragged. My boss at the diner griping about vacation brain. But the fire? It purified, sharpening my edges. I coded a simple app on my ancient laptop, anonymous drop for the docs. Time to release if I ghosted. Insurance. Thanksgiving dawned gray. Flurries dusting the ups pines like ash. The cabin was rustic chic, stone fireplace. Pine beams. A table long enough for ghosts. I arrived first, stocking the fridge with fixings from a Marquette grocer, cranberry relish spiked with secrets. They trickled in, Mom with pies. Dad lugging wine. Alex last, coat dusted white. Eyes scanning like a hawk. Hugs were obligatory, stiff as starched collars. Nice spot, he said, clapping my back. Therapy cabin? I smiled.
Thin.
Something like that. Dinner unfolded in fits, Grace said haltingly. Plates passed with averted eyes. Small talk skated surfaces, weather, football scores, Mom's garden club drama. But undercurrents pulled, Dad's coughs, Mom's nervous laughs, Alex's glances that lingered too long. I waited till the bird was carved, meat steaming, before uncorking the vintage. To truth, I toasted, glasses chiming like warnings. They drank. I sipped water. Alex, remember the upsummers? Swearing on Lake Superior. He nodded warily.
Yeah.
Why? I set down my glass, the moment cresting. Because blood oaths mean something. Unlike felonies. The table iced over. Mom's fork clattered. Sophia, but I was in it, pulling the drive from my pocket. slapping it by the potatoes. Or empires build on them. Open it.
Bro.
See how deep the rabbit hole goes. His face cycled shock, denial,
Rage.
what is this? Snatching it. But I had backups on my phone. Projections flickering, ledgers red with theft. His face in grainy surveillance. Dad peered.
Balling.
Alex. Mom whimpered. Flip 3. Alex lunged. Chair toppling. You bitch. You think this buries me? But the fight drained as Dad scrolled. Horror dawning. Son.
God.
No. Chaos erupted, shouts, tears, accusations ricocheting. I stood amid it. The poison pouring, every file, every call, the betrayal laid bare. Alex flipped again, crumbling to please. It was survival. After you? Soph, I had nothing. Nothing. While I had less. The climax peaked as sirens wailed distant, my tip to the feds. Coordinates pinned. Polarizing? Hell yes. Was I avenger or arsonist? Dragging family through flames? Dad clutched his chest. Mom screamed for air. Alex bolted for the door. But snowdrifts mocked him. No heroes here, just wreckage. Sirens shredded the night. Red-blue strobing through cabin windows like accusations in neon. State troopers burst in. Badges first. Questions barking over Mom's sobs. FBI follow-up on a tip. Financial irregularities. Reyes. Alex froze mid-stride. Snow melting off his boots into puddles of defeat. This is a family dinner, he stammered. But the cuffs clicked anyway. Cold and final. Dad slumped in his chair. Face ashen. Clutching the phone like a lifeline or a noose. Mom rocked. Whispering no.
No.
Not my boy, as if denial could rewind the drive's damning glow.
Me?
I stood back. Arms folded. The architect of the avalanche, watching it bury us all. The ride back to Marquette was a funeral procession, Alex in the squad car ahead. Dad and Mom in theirs. Me trailing in the Civic. Wipers slapping away flurries like futile regrets. Interrogation rooms awaited, sterile boxes in the county lockup, where truths got twisted into statements. I gave mine clean, the history, the files from Voss, the PI's shadows.
No embellishment.
Just facts stacked like evidence bricks. He framed me once, I told the agent. A no-nonsense woman named Hale with a Midwest twang. This is payback? Maybe. But it's justice too. She nodded, scribbling. Gray areas still gray. Reyes. We'll see. Alex's lawyers swarmed by dawn, shark suits from LA. Spinning narratives of misunderstandings and overzealous siblings. Bail hearing was a circus. Paparazzi flashes outside the courthouse. Headlines brewing. Auto moguls fall. Family feud or felony? He flipped on the stand. Charm dialed to 11. My sister's grudge is real. Your Honor. Prison changed her. Paranoia. Vendettas. This is extortion. Extortion. The word slimed out, painting me the villain. The bitter ex-con out for blood money. Reporters ate it up. My diner shift splashed as desperate motive. Mom testified tearfully. Sophia's always been intense. Alex tried to help. Help. The check. The wires, framed now as bribes I'd shaken loose. Dad? He didn't speak. Just sat in the gallery. Oxygen mask fogging from the stress. Heart attack en route from the cabin, mild. They said. But the prognosis hung like storm clouds. Avoid agitation. My doing? The guilt gnawed. A rat in the walls. Nights in my apartment. I'd replay the dinner. His crumple. Her wail. Polarizing didn't cover it. Friends from the laundromat called. Split. You slayed the dragon. Girl. Versus blood's blood. You killed your own. Online?
Forum Liup.
Debates raging. Was I hero? Exposing corruption. Or heel? Toppling a flawed but functional family? No clean wins. Just the mess of morality in the gray. Trial dragged into spring. Detroit's thaw mirroring the slow melt of secrets. Voss took the stand. Docs verified. Ruiz's photos sealed the skim. Alex's defense flipped tactics weekly. Addiction plea one day. Coke clouds judgment. Corporate sabotage the next. A rival planted it. But the jury saw through. The verdict stacking, fraud, laundering, conspiracy. 10 years. Minimum. With a side of restitution. Grandma's money traced. Clawed back for victims, including me. A cool $1 million in frozen assets thawed my way. Justice served, Hale said, shaking my hand post-sentencing. But as Alex was let out, eyes locking mine, not hate, but something worse, pity. You think this fixes you? Soph? We're both monsters now. Monster. The word echoed in the empty courtroom. Mom's seat vacant. She'd stopped coming after Dad's second episode, blaming me in voicemails deleted unheard. Dad rallied slow. Rehab in Bloomfield. Cards from him sporadic. Forgive us. Time heals. Heals. If only. I quit the diner. The laundromat. Traded grease for graphic freelance. The coding from prison blooming into gigs for indie brands. Money bought breathing room. A studio in Ferndale. Art supplies spilling over tables. Nights out at dive bars where stories swapped like currency.
But sleep?
Elusive. Haunted by what-ifs. What if I'd taken the check and run? Let his house stand. Even rotten? The twist came unannounced. 6 months post-verdict. A letter. Forwarded from the old address.
Postmarkte là.
Not from Alex. His appeals were grinding gears in appeals court, but from Elena. The blonde from his photos. Sophia, it read. Script elegant. He never told you.
Did he?
About the night before the bust. Enclosed. A faded Polaroid. Time-stamped.
Me?
Passed out on our couch. Alex hovering with a syringe. He dosed you, she wrote. Rohypnol. To keep you foggy during the drop. Said it was insurance. You wouldn't crack if questioned. But it backfired. You drove erratic. Got tailed. He panicked. Pinned it all on you. Clean getaway.
Dosed.
The word detonated. Rewriting the script. Not just framed, drugged. My agency stolen like the cars. Rage surged. But laced with relief? Vindication so pure it burned. Elena's P.S. He confessed in rehab. Pre-trial. Wanted absolution. I thought you deserved truth.
P.S.
The baby's his. We're keeping it clean. Baby. A niece or nephew. Innocent in the fallout. Controversy crested anew. Should I tell? Expose the depth. Or let the kid grow unscarred. Debates in my head. Endless. Mercy versus memory. I drove north that weekend, roses in hand for Dad's porch. He answered frail, but eyes clear. Soph. No more. We sat on the swing, creaking confessions. I knew, he admitted. Voice gravel. About the frame. Thought protecting him protected us all.
Us.
The family myth. Cracked irreparable. Mom joined later.
Tentative.
Pie cooling on the sill. Can we try?
Try.
The word hung, fragile as frost. Ending? No tidy bow. Alex's appeal failed. He's in FCI Terminal Island now. Writing letters I don't read. I visit sometimes, stare through plexiglass, searching for the brother beneath the ink. Forgiveness? Not yet. But the money funded a scholarship in Grandma's name, for kids with records. Second chances on my dime. Polarizing to the end. Hero's redemption. Or hypocrite's hedge. You decide.
Me?
I sleep better. The poison purged, though the aftertaste lingers. Truth's a bitter vintage. But damn if it doesn't age well. In the quiet of my studio, canvas stretched, I paint the cabin, flurries frozen mid-fall. Figures blurred at the table. Not gore, not glory. Just the raw standoff, a family fractured. Remade in the breaking. And in the corner, a tiny shadow, the unborn, the unknown. Future's the real twist. Isn't it? Unpredictable as a joyride gone wrong.